welcome back to my channel, Julia Speed Builds. I'm Julia, if you couldn't have guessed, and today we are building Rapunzel's tiny house tower. The question behind this build was, what would Rapunzel's tower look like should it be a tiny house? I saw a picture on Pinterest, and it was this little greenhouse in the middle of a garden, but its style was of a castle. And I thought that was really interesting, and it reminded me a lot of the way Rapunzel's tower has been depicted in our media. And I wanted to recreate that. So I know her house or her tower has normally been depicted as kind of like a studio apartment just at the top of this, in the tallest room of the tallest tower. So I thought it would actually be really conducive to a tiny house build, but instead of it being high in the air, she's pretty low to the ground and in this garden. I did actually have it at 4 stories at one point, but with these windows being one on each side in this square build, it looked kind of weird when it got tall. I think really because I have those shutters on the house, it kind of made this weird stripy pattern when it got really tall. So I quickly deleted those upper layers and got back down to just our 2-story little tiny home, which was more fun to figure out the inside for later anyways. So one of the main focuses with this house was to make it feel like it is from a garden. I wanted to highlight the colors white, purple, and green, and a big part of that was working on these vines on the outside and making it look really organic with those greens. I think those greens are from the vampire pack, and I actually got that pack specifically because I wanted to be able to put ivy on the sides of houses like this. I think that just elevates a lot of people's builds, and whenever I would watch speed builds on my own, I'd be like, man, I gotta get some of those. And I do like playing with the occult sims, so it ended up being a good fit for me, and I put it in a bundle, and now we're here. So I started with the greenery on the outside of the house, and then I will begin working on the garden surrounding it a little bit later. One of the big things I struggled with here at the beginning too was whether or not to put stairs leading up to the front door. It feels natural to have stairs coming up to your front door, especially when you have that little like foundational step there. Like, I don't know if you have to actually have stairs there for your sim to be able to get into the house, but I know most people do, and I normally do just as a default on my builds. But as I started building up these plants on the outside of it, it started feeling less and less organic. And it was kind of weird having just that platform on the front of the house. So it'll go away eventually. But I wanted the house to feel as if it was springing up out of a garden, as if you had to walk through some like meadow or someplace to get to the house, and it was kind of deep in some forest somewhere that's beautiful. So I pushed the house closer to the ground so that the door was right on ground level, and ended up painting on a pathway, like a gravel pathway around the place, as if that's just where like foot traffic has been to create that path, as opposed to actual tiles being laid down. See, I'm still messing with those stairs here. I couldn't get them right. I was like, maybe if I make it an actual step and be a little bit taller, it'll feel right. But then it just felt weird having stairs walking up to this door and then not having like railing on them. So I built up the garden surrounding it a little bit more, hoping that it would kind of bury the sides of those stairs with them and make it feel more natural. And I kind of went all out with the flowers here. I tried to highlight again the purples and the greens, but accenting that with pink and yellow was really pretty. So you can see kind of a lot of different plants there. Also, I don't know what was wrong with the game at this point, but I would lower the house into the ground and it would just delete all of my like doors, and like some of the greens that I'd already placed on the front of the house. But I found this really pretty fence and put it around the house, and it allowed me to have that kind of inviting feeling I was looking for and couldn't find with those stairs. So this fence really worked out for me. And then we painted on these gravel tiles. Oh, but then when I closed the fence, for some reason it thought it was a room, so I had to delete the floor again. And I think that made us go to like a bigger house tier than we should be. I'm pretty sure this should be like a tiny house. We're only 4 by 4 wide, but it says I've placed 66 tiles, so not quite sure what that's about. So I had to replace all these greens on the front of the house, but I think I like the way they were placed better the second time a little bit more. I kind of figured out how to resize everything at that point in order to place them down for them to look a little bit less contrived, because I know we just have like pieces of things in this game, right? But you can get really creative with the things if you figure out how to resize them and kind of overlap things and start to make them look less piecey. But we've got all these trees placed around now, so we've got good shadows, but I had to end up fighting these because these rooms were so small, I had to like fight the game camera again to really see everything that was going on. But I do really like the inside space in this house. I think it is perfectly small yet broad enough to actually create in it. Like, you don't have to be stuck to a specific layout because of its tininess. That's why I like tiny houses in general, is that it's a little bit different every time because you're just placing things on top of each other that you normally wouldn't, or trying to condense different things. But I think this was like the perfectly small house for me, at least. So downstairs right now we've got stone floors, which I thought really made it feel like this Disney princess garden aesthetic we were going for. And then the purple walls, I do think too were important to the aesthetic of this build. And we've got a lot of black accents going on in here at the moment, but I do change those to brown later because I thought it was a little more outdoorsy. The black felt a little too modern, and even though this is sort of a modern take on a Renaissance feeling, I thought maybe it had been pushed too far in one direction once you got inside because of the black flooring as opposed to a natural brown. But we've got, your classic canopied bed up here. And the swatches for that bed were kind of disappointing. They were all really like cartoony. So I went with the most plain one I could find, and it was pink and white. So I got to kind of build the color palette up from there. I thought pink kind of fit into this, and I was able to kind of expand on that. And this bedroom ended up changing 1,000 times. I thought I was really happy with it where it is sort of right now, and that dresser fit perfectly in that little nook, and I found some cool like candles to light the space with, and there was like extra space at the foot of the bed that I ended up putting a easel at. I wanted the character who lives in this house to be a painter because they were so inspired by the gardens surrounding them. And especially since there would be little to no space downstairs, I was like, oh, she can look out the windows out here. Might as well put, her little hobby, entertainment, skill building piece up here. But ultimately, this entire room changed, and so does downstairs, because I realized halfway through decorating, where am I going to put a kitchen? Where am I going to put a bathroom? And the placement of the bathroom ultimately decided the placement of everything else in this house, because I know those are pieces that really need to be functional. Like with a bed, you can put them against the wall. They're kind of a little more versatile and as to where you can place them, and same with like the dressers. Like I could get like a one tile dresser if I needed it, or I could have put that easel outside. But your toilet and your shower, you need to be able to use those in your house, and you have to place them very specifically. I know someone online just made a one tile bathroom, but I don't have I believe, I don't know if it's Island Living or University that has the like public shower things where you don't get embarrassed to shower in public, and that one's a really small shower head that you can kind of overlap with your other bathroom items. But I don't have that, so I had to make my full one tile shower work somewhere in this house. So I tried to put it upstairs originally, and I don't know why I didn't end up keeping that. Because that's what I ultimately chose when we get a little bit further down this road. But I played around a little bit with where can I add walls so that I can put a bathroom in here. Where is the door going to feel natural? Is it going to be weird that these walls are blocked off now when it was more of a loft space in the beginning? I tried to fit it under the stairs, and I thought that was where it was going to like fit best, because that feels like unusable space anyways. So I tried for a while to get this bathroom to fit under the stairs. I tried with like these diagonal walls, and I kept just taking up more and more space, and I couldn't get it to work. And if I did get it to work, that wall was intersecting that window right there, and I thought that looked really stupid. So I kept having to mess with it, but then I couldn't get a sim to be able to use the things, and then the rest of the space wouldn't be usable, so it was a mess and took me forever to figure out. This build would have been like 10 minutes if I had known where to initially put this bathroom, because the rest of this video is just me figuring out where the heck to put this bathroom. We do eventually get to decorating and things, but so here I am trying to mess with this kitchen. I'm like, okay, where can I put these pieces that's maybe new and fresh but doesn't feel weird? Because like right now, like the refrigerator right there looks natural and fine, but like the oven in the corner looks so weird. I also for some reason chose like the ugly apartment style like appliances at first, and then was like, this is supposed to be like a Renaissance princess like tower build, like why'd you choose those? So luckily we had these more interesting appliances to pick. So for some reason I thought to problem solve making this bathroom space feel more natural, why don't you just make the stairs take up more space, Julia? So I flipped them around thinking that more wall space would make it easier for me to place the kitchen. And then I started playing with pushing the appliances further into the walls to give myself more space. I don't know why I didn't instinctually do that. Like normally I do that in my own personal builds, just with the Alt key on my computer. It's the Option key. But and just kind of like spreading things out a little bit so your Sims can still use the items, but they're still kind of taking up the same space. So with those stairs moving, I had to rearrange upstairs. And again, I was like happy with what was going on up here. But then I still didn't have space for the bathroom downstairs, and I couldn't find space to put like a table and everything. And I'm trying to use these weird catty-cornered walls. Do y'all say catty-cornered or like diagonal? I feel like there's a lot of other words for that. Just the same way like I say buggy when most people say shopping cart, I'll say catty-cornered, but I don't know what y'all might say. Let me know down in the comments. Oh, is that the first time I'm getting to use a phrase like that? That's exciting. Guys, talking for this long is really intimidating. Like, yes, I do like several takes and everything, but I hope this gets easier. Just like constantly speaking on subjects. Thankfully, it is kind of interesting with, you know, the process of physically building. Like, there's obviously new things happening from second to second, so technically there's nothing to run out to talk about, but like, I don't know how personal to get on here yet. This is video number 2. But back to the build. Okay, so I figured out at this point that it would be easier to put all my kitchen appliances under the stairs because they were still operational under there. but they had like all the wall space they needed, and the window wasn't being cut off that weirdly. I had also previously built like the kitchen counters to go up with the stairs in another build I'd done, so I was like, oh, I know that that looks cute. Let me see if it'll fit into here. At that point, too, the bathroom was still downstairs. I was still trying to make it work. I was like, maybe if I finagle it, more, I'll get it to work. But it still just took up way too much space downstairs when I knew there was like so much space still upstairs. Somehow I didn't catch that I never updated that railing either. So I was building with one tile less than I actually had, which was pretty stupid. But I realized that my original idea of putting the bathroom upstairs actually worked the best. And I got a sim in there to actually play test it to make sure I had everything spaced correctly. And I really like that little like scratched up apartment. I think that's from City Living. That scratched up apartment door up in her room. It just added a little bit of style or like patina to it. The whole space, because it was kind of pristine before. I think because like the bed didn't have more color options, I had to choose like the cleanest looking one, and it kind of made the space itself look a little bit too pristine when I was going for something a little more rustic. But thankfully we got all that worked out. You could see the sim up there playtesting it. And so we actually had space downstairs to put a table. I moved the easel downstairs too, so they've got like a little skill building corner. And then I had to figure out like what I wanted to put for the table, because I can't put obviously like a whole dining table with like 4 chairs going around it. But I did figure out how to actually utilize the diagonal walls I'd been so insistent on using the whole time. So I put this wooden table just up against the wall as normal, but then I drew a new wall in that corner so that the wall itself was facing outwards, and I was able to actually put a TV on it. And I went back and forth as to whether or not I should put a TV in this house at all, because, I mean, I've been using candles and chandeliers, so maybe it would make sense that, like, electricity might be not a thing, or, like, maybe the time period we're living in, TVs wouldn't be a thing, but I already had the shower, and it wasn't an off-the-grid build. This is just, somewhere out in the country maybe. So I put the TV on that slanty wall so it can still be utilized, but we also have as much table space as possible. So it looks a little bit weird with the wall disappearing, but I thought it was the best way to make this space functional. And now we're just down to the decorating. I finally got to use those laundry day rugs. I'd never been able to use those like circular like flower woven rugs before, but they fit really well on that stone flooring. And now you can see I realized I messed up with the railing there, and I actually had a lot more space than I thought, so I could put a dresser back in there, because at this point I was trying to think about what I'd forgotten to put in the build to make the space functional while I was decorating, and so I realized, oh, she's got no dresser, got to put one of those in there. Also, I needed a trash can, which I ended up putting in the backyard. I just realized, too, that she doesn't have a sink in this whole house. Her sim's going to be really upset having to take an entire shower every time they're feeling dirty, or, like, they can't brush their teeth. Uh-oh. But I think I only have one actual counter space in the kitchen, so I don't think I could have actually put a sink in there. Maybe I could slide a sink into that 2x2 bathroom, but I don't know if that's even possible to make everything functional at that point. I guess I could also just get rid of the easel and put all of that outside. Because we've got that, technically we have 2 counter spaces, but one of them is like completely under the stairs and I doubt would be usable. So yeah, I don't know if Sims can build on the like bar counter space, because I could replace that table in the corner with bar space and have them eat there and also prepare their food there if I put the sink over by the stairs. But I don't know, if you download this into your game, you could probably figure that out too. Let me know what you find out. But yeah, here we go, doing the final detailing, putting things on the wall. I put a broom in there, just because it made the space feel more functional, as if that's like a really functional corner for her. I liked those little, the towel rungs, that were by the easel. I imagined that, they were for her painting or for her brushes, because I don't know about y'all, but my favorite Rapunzel growing up was actually the Barbie version of Rapunzel, and that character was an artist, and she had a magic paintbrush that she could like paint a mural and then go to that space. So I definitely had that on my mind as I was building this. Was that she was supposed to be an artist because of Barbie as Rapunzel. I know that Disney as Rapunzel is similar, where she's painting murals on her wall with the lanterns, but the one I grew up watching, the murals were magical. But I do have a little nod to the Disney Rapunzel in here. I put one of the debug items in the kitchen. It was like a little tank with a frog in it, and I imagine that that would be Pascal, the little chameleon. So, I also made sure that there was lanterns in the garden to light up at night so that you could still use the outside things at night and it looked really pretty. I put an easel under the tree over there, and there's seating areas all over the place. And then I also added some laundry day stuff to the backyard. There's a drying rack and a little wash bucket. I don't know what it's actually called, but I hope you enjoyed this build. Here are the stills, our little walkthrough, and I'll see you next time.